Clash of Clans podcast, OG, episode 14. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Scotty827, here with my co-host and partner in crime, TipDog20. What's happening, man?
The lovely TipDog20.
The lovely.
We're just enjoying CWL this week, right? You say
Yeah.
the bold TipDog20?
I'm feeling good about the CWL, even though
Did you say the bold or the bald TipDog20?
The bold.
Oh, I thought you said the bald TipDog20, because I am bald, by the way.
Are you? I'm getting there. What kind of?
Did you know that?
Well, no, not really.
I normally wear hats in my YouTube videos. I'm a big fan of hats, but I will do a YouTube video every now and again where I don't wear a hat. Most of the time it's because I've just shaven my head and I don't like the feeling of a hat on a freshly shaved head.
I just did that. I had to do
Wait,
that.
you just shaved your head?
Yeah, I did.
What?
Yes.
Was this because you lost a bet or because you wanted to?
No, it's really embarrassing.
I want to hear it. Well, won't tell anybody, I promise. Just you and me, buddy.
I had a huge tube of super glue blow up in my hands. And it wasn't the normal super glue. It was like oh yeah.
Hold on, question. Did you mistake the tube of super glue for a tube of something else?
No,
you were trying to wipe on your hand or
effing God. No. What happened is I was doing some 3D printing things and I was in a hurry to get some stuff done. And I went in and it was the E6000 industrial strength glue. And I was in the middle of something else as well at work. So I had to, it blew up in my hands because it was dry on the one end. And
what blew up in your hands?
The E6000 glue tube.
Okay, just clarifying.
Through like I'm squeezing it, thinking like it's just about to come out, and it just busts. And I went to the bathroom, and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? And so I'm like washing my hands, and I'm scrubbing, and I get it all off. I think.
Scotty, you need to go, whenever you're editing this, you need to go back and re-listen to what you just said.
What? Ringing at yeah. I'm just like in the horror of it. And so this glue doesn't dry right away. And I don't know at what point it dried, but it has been a nightmare.
So you had to shave your head because of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I had to, because I got it on my glasses. And I got it all over my face and all over my arms and my legs. And so, it's just been. And so finally I thought, I kept getting my hair shorter and shorter, and I didn't really know it was on my head until you get it in the sun. And then stuff starts to come off. And so there we go.
So I was really self-conscious whenever I first started shaving my head. So I've been shaving it just completely cue-bald off for about 10 years now. But I started going bald, I started balding when I was probably 23 or 24. And I just kept on. At first, I tried doing the whole comb over, where you let it grow a little bit longer and try to finagle it so that it covers over the bald spots. And then eventually I was like, and so I started just cutting it shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Finally, I think it was in 2015, around then, I just said, forget it. I just shaved it all off.
And now you're just a guy who may or may not have hair because you've taken control back and you said, you know what? Keep it guessing. I might just shave this shit. You don't know.
Sorry, I would feel weird with hair now. I looked into, not wigs, but hair transplant crap. And I looked into all of that.
When this glue's
And
gone, I'm going long. Locks of love right there. Welcome back to the podcast, the Clash of Clans podcast here, where there's peanut butter and glue face just happening all over the place.
stuff exploding all over.
Yeah, CWL started. That
Mm-hmm.
we've been kind of gravitated towards this, and as we were kind of starting the podcast right as I announced, I had just asked Tip what he would want to talk about, and I think we should just start there because I said, "Oh, we got to just roll this."
You talking about the barbarian kicker?
Yeah. What? Okay. So this event kicks off this week. It's the new season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's new in this season?
So they do have, and I don't know how to pronounce this name. I'm sure I didn't even watch the YouTube video, but Halen's challenge, where every day they're going to give you a new event, and then every event that you complete, you get a new bonus, something like a gift. So the first day was a training potion, second day was 50 glowy ore, third day is a research potion, fourth day is 50 more glowy ore.
Did I miss one?
So you have to go down to the little soccer ball that's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Yeah, but I can keep
And then
playing through, right? Like,
yeah. It's not like the streak event where you have to do it every day.
Thank God.
Like you can catch up. You can catch up. So you can just do, like, if you haven't done any of the three
Holland.
that's open. Holland.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think to look him up. I'm guessing he's like a famous soccer player, which my son plays soccer, so I know a decent bit about
dare
soccer, but I've
you.
never heard of this player.
How dare you? I have no idea who he is either.
Oh, I was like,
I don't follow.
crap.
I don't really follow sports.
Like and he's really famous, and I just offended somebody. I don't even know who he is. But
I'm all in. This is all Clash Life here. And with the season, so we get this event, we get those boosts. What else is new in the season?
So one thing that's interesting is they introduced an event troop to be played during CWL.
What?
So typically, whenever they have introduced an event troop, like when they did the Mashup Madness back in November, or when they've introduced other event troops, they won't allow it to go through CWL. So, for instance, you couldn't use the lava loons during because it was so OP.
Yeah.
But they introduced this at the start of CWL. So I mean, we've had some players use the barbarian kicker in CWL. He's not like super OP, so it's not like it's that big of a deal, but he can be useful in some situations. Have you got to use him at all yet?
No, I didn't. Well, just in that challenge.
Okay.
And I was on my phone, so it was really small. And so I didn't really understand like the troop AI, but I did see it when I was trying to fill Clan Castle CCs. I believe that he was an option, and so I was trying to go play him, but do I see him in the regular? Oh yeah, there he is.
He's in the regular troop complement. Like you can just train him up if you want to have him in your attacks. And it's an interesting troop. So he kicks a soccer ball and then he turns into barbarian, basically. I mean, he has more hit points than a barbarian does at 2,300, but he's essentially a one-shot flame flinger. That's essentially what he does.
Okay.
His one shot does 3,008 damage, which is enough to destroy pretty much a lot of defenses. So it won't destroy like a scatter shot or an expo or an eagle. So the higher HP buildings, it won't destroy with one hit unless you put a rage spell down in order to, help with that. And then also it won't destroy the town hall in one kick, but it won't with two either. Now that I'm thinking of it,
well,
but if you put down,
how many are you bringing?
Oh, I'm not using it at all. I haven't used it at all. I just been going with my regular Root Rider attacks, and that's been going well for me. So I don't want to jinx that.
Yeah. I wonder what I could sub him in for, like one of those with the 12 space, like a super minion.
So it's really good for funneling. So if they're very similar to the Warden's Fireball, so it has almost the same effect, So especially and we're really getting nuanced with Clash of Clans with the Angry Jelly. We've had a lot of players who are putting the Angry Jelly on their Warden paired with the Warden's Fireball, and the Warden's just going after these defenses until it gets to a cluster of defenses, maybe like an
Oh,
Expo, an Inferno Tower, and the Eagle. They're all clustered there together, and he's bam taking several defenses down, and then boom hitting the Fireball, taking everything out. Now you have to use a Quake in some instances, or if the Town Hall's on the outside, I'm seeing the doing a Warden walk with the Angry Jelly on him and he's going through the defenses, you quake the town hall because you're going to have to anyway to get it down with the warden's fireball, which activates it, makes it a defense, and then the warden's fireball takes it down. So this kind of has the same effect where it targets defenses.
hmm.
And so it's not bad as a funnel troop. If you can take a few defenses out on the corner, then you can put a few archers down, something with low troop space just to get those few buildings on the corners out of the way and then send your troops up the middle, like your super bowlers, for example.
Well, how long do we got left on this challenge? Okay, so it's going to be like 18 more days. Like it's worth playing around with the troop, like because I was just thinking, is this going to be just for the weekend, type thing? And it says on my event that there's still 18 days left remaining.
Yeah, so I mean, it's worth playing around with if you want to. I typically don't mess with event troops a lot, just because it's
You don't want
hard.
to miss them.
Well, I don't want to start using them and then get used to them and then forget how to do my regular army.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Clash of Clans success is in muscle memory. So on my lower accounts in CWL, for example, the two attacks that I use the most of at lower town halls is Blizzard Lalo and Super Bowlers. And literally, I've done those two attacks probably 500 to 1,000 times, probably more than 1,000 times now that I'm thinking of it, with like all the farming attacks and stuff that I've used to practice with and FCs. And so I've done both of those attacks thousands of times. And so my brain has the order down specifically, like I do it the exact same way every single time.
You probably,
So I'm afraid if I
you're
use
probably
event
sleeping in the
troops,
night, pushing
yeah, exactly.
the air.
That's kind of how I think of it. Like you can do it in your sleep. So I'm afraid if I start using an event troop, even if it is OP, that my muscle memory is gonna be out of whack
He
whenever
was never the
CWL
same.
comes around.
He was never
Right.
the same after using Holland.
Well,
He could never get
is
it
that how you
back.
pronounce it?
I don't know. I'm
Holland
probably
messes
butchering
everything
it.
up.
I'm probably butchering it. So that is the rest of the season then?
Yeah, for the next 18 days. So that means it'll go until May 23rd.
And then what do we get for scenery? Or heroes.
So they gave out the soccer skins.
Oh
for the
yeah, that's
heroes.
right. That's right. Okay. It's been a busy week.
Yeah. So
And
the
there's
RC skin is pretty cool. We got that one for free.
Yeah, I like that.
The Barbarian King's his face has been changed to match Holland's face. So that's a little weird. Like it's a little different seeing him on the battlefield having a different face. I guess it's no different than like the Golem skin. I mean, because he has the
Who is
Golem
this
face on.
stranger?
I just don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's what's so funny about it. I have no idea who this guy is. So it's like,
He scared
hey,
the hell out of me.
hey, buddy, what are you doing there? Walk across my battlefield. Let me
What the
press you
hell?
on the face.
Where's my king? Where's my king?
Who is this strange guy that's attacking the queen? Get off her.
I guess I didn't see the king and no, I must have checked it out. I was debating about whether or not I'm gonna get those other skins, but
He's available right now for sale for $9.99 if you want to buy them. So I considered it because I really like the Warden skin, and I don't think those are for sale yet. The Warden skin and the Queen skin were really cool, but then the King skin I was a little weirded out by. So I was like,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
He kind
It's
of looks,
okay. It just doesn't look like the King. It looks like whoever this Holland dude is.
well, when he's standing there, it's fine. But when he's running around, he kind of looks like the bad guy from Ghostbusters 2.
Kind of, I guess. So
Like-
funny.
Well, I'm just looking at it, and when he's running, that's what it looks That's what I thought. I didn't even know. I thought maybe it was a brand new hero at first, but
which would have been cool. I imagine that I think they're probably working on a new hero for Town Hall 17. Maybe it's going to be this Holland guy.
maybe he sticks around.
Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see him back one
Maybe
day.
they just have an event hero.
That
like-
would be a cool idea. Like trying out a new hero in an event. So they
Like
did
season hero.
on the, I don't know if you noticed, but on the first day, the king had new equipment. Did you see that?
I did not.
So it's almost like you can play it. It's the first event, payback time. And it's almost like the Seeking Shield on the RC, except it does a ton more damage than the Seeking Shield does. It's this like gauntlet ball that he throws,
Oh,
and I think it hits like 6 defenses,
like
and it does like 3,000 or 4,000 damage per hit. So it just completely wipes out
oh, cool.
pretty much every single defense. So that's cool. That's obviously coming. I don't know if it'll be next. I mean, Supercell's teased the Rocket Spear for like 2 months now.
Yeah.
So I don't know
yeah.
if it's gonna be that or this gaunt. It's not gonna
Do
be.
you think
gauntlet.
that? Do you think that ability would have paired really well with the earthquake boots?
Maybe. So the problem with using this ball, spiky ball, I don't know what it's called, but the problem with I'm just going to call it spiky ball. The problem
Mace?
with using
Is it a
this
mace?
spiky ball is if you give that up, then you have to give up the giant gauntlet and the rage vial, which pairs amazingly well with the giant gauntlet. So it's like, okay, this is nice, but I'm not giving up my giant gauntlet, so it's probably going to stay in level 1 for a while. You know?
What? Yeah, I don't know. So I've been using the giant gauntlet and the rage vial, and in some ways, I think if they traded off like increase in damage per second, and they trade off like you get something similar
Mm-hmm.
and self healing, I think it would be worth it.
So it'll definitely be worth it. And this is what I've been preaching this whole time is that hero equipment is made for specific situations. Like we've had those conversations. The cool thing about this spiky ball is it's the first piece of range damage for the king. So for example, the warden has the fireball, which is his version of the rage damage. The queen has the giant arrow, which is her version of rage damage. And assuming the rocket spear comes out sometime for the RC, that is the RC's version of rage damage. We don't have any rage damage for the king. And there may be some situations where you want to destroy the building or buildings before the king gets to it. Or for pathing purposes, you want this spiky ball to destroy this section of buildings or defenses. So in those instances, it may be valuable. Like
that could work really good with the Vamp Stash. Smacks the defenses and then hits all those things to heal up.
So I can also see it being used with the Angry Jelly.
Yeah, tell me about this Angry Jelly.
So the cool thing about
so-called Angry Jelly swimming the oceans of Clash.
So it's being used most often from the guys that have been using it during their attacks with the Grand Warden. So the Grand Warden will strike a few defenses, and then we'll get to the cluster of defenses, and then we'll use the fireball to attack that specific section, pretty much wiping it out. But I've also seen it used on the king, specifically to knock down buildings in order to be able to put a flame flinger down. So you can either put the king down, he destroys a few defenses, especially if they're outside the walls. Like, let's say that there's an easy access expo that's cutting off pathing for a flame flinger. We'll throw the king down. The Angry Jelly will make him go to the expo. You don't have to worry about funneling at all. So let's say that there are 6 gold mines sitting in front of that, and a dark elixir storage sitting in front of that expo. You don't have to worry about any of that because the king will go directly to the defenses if the Angry Jelly is on him. So he'll go knock it out, knock out the expo. Now you can let the king continue, or you can pull him out with a recall spell and throw down the flame flinger. So I've seen that before as well. But let's say that you use the Angry Jelly and the king knocks out a few defenses with the Angry Jelly ability. You hold the Spiky Ball ability until the Angry Jelly is done. And when he starts targeting non-defensive buildings, that's when you throw the Spiky Ball and he knocks out another
Yeah.
4 or 5 or 6 defenses on top of that. Like, it could be really powerful in some situations.
Are you changing your thoughts on upgrade order? Of like
No,
just doing it across the board?
yeah. So I'm still pretty strong on finding the two pieces that work best with your attacks. And this is just personally, this is what I do
Yeah.
personally. Like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but using the two pieces that work with a majority of your attacks and just upgrade those two pieces. Now, I run into problems with this because I'm a pretty big advocate for the Vamp Stash in lower Town Hall levels. So basically, anything Town Hall 13 and below, I personally believe that the Vamp Stash is the best piece of equipment to pair with the Rage Vial for the King, just because of the types attacks that you do Town Hall 13 and below. But the problem is, Town Hall 14 and above, a lot of smash attacks are used. And with the smash attack, hands down, the best piece of equipment is the Giant Gauntlet. So like I kind of went back and forth on that first. I started upgrading my Vamp Stash on my lower Town
Yeah.
Halls, but then I realized, oh, it's going to be moving up. So I probably need to switch over the Giant Gauntlet. But I'm going to just stick with those pieces. And right now, the one piece that I'm focusing on is the Warden Fireball. I think it's at 17 right now, and it should be.
Oh,
I'm doing
wow.
them and I'm doing them in triples. So I can only upgrade it when I get enough glowy ore. So basically, I'm at stuck at 14. I get enough glowy ore to get it to level 15, and then I'm immediately upgrading level 16 to level 17, and the same thing's going to happen. Like, I'm going to get enough glowy ore to upgrade it to
Oh.
level 18, so I'm going to go 18, 19, 20 immediately, and then 21 will be my next sticking point.
I have an existential crisis every time I'm about to upgrade a piece of equipment. Which one do I do? Should I do this? Oh, but what about this? And I go back and forth and back and forth. And the strategy I'm settling on now for this week, my long-lasting strategies in this game, is strengthen the weakest. So I'm focusing more on my Warden.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm actually, if I've got a little change left over after the big upgrade, I'll put it into a lower equipment, like what is it? I was doing the earthquake boots a little bit, so that's up to like 6.
Mm-hmm.
Because I figure in the event that something major changes and upgrade happens, I want those lower equipment that I don't use very often to be in range that I could do some serious work pretty quick.
Could, yeah. I found so much value in having maxed out pieces of equipment that I'm just going to stick with that strategy. Like, I have really low levels of, the smaller pieces of equipment. I like even the frozen arrow, for example. Like, I think I did put a little bit into it first, so it's at level 3.
Oh, I thought you were using that.
No, I'm using the healer puppet and the invis file on my queen. But
Oh.
like it's at level 5. So my frozen arrows at level 5. My earthquake boots I did upgrade in the beginning, because at the beginning nobody knew what was going to be best. So everybody was just upgrading everything, and so I threw several levels into the earthquake boots, for example. But yeah, the Ward's Fireball is what I'm working on right now.
You are? Okay. Didn't you tell me not to use that one?
It depends on the attack that you're using.
Oh my god.
So
We
it's
can
not.
keep this straight. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So it's not something that I will be using a lot. But for example, right now, my Rage Vial, Giant Gauntlet, Healer Puppet, Invis Vial, Life Gem, Healing Tome, Hog Puppet, and Royal Gem are all already max. So those are the ones that I'm going to be using. I'm sorry, Eternal Tome and Healing Tome. Those are the ones that I'm using with the attack that I'm, working on right now. So now I'm just upgrading the pieces of equipment that I might be using with attacks in the future, possibly. And I'm seeing lots of really great attacks with the Warden's Fireball. I'm not using them yet, but once my Fireball gets maxed, I might take a foray into that and see if it works for me.
And so what will you take, the tome and the fireball?
So
Or the
I'm seeing the Rage Gem paired most with the Fireball. So the Eternal Tome doesn't work. The Eternal Tome and the Healing Tome doesn't really work because you typically use the Fireball with a Warden Walk. And on a Warden Walk, you don't have any troops with you anyway. So if you use the Eternal Tome or the Healing Tome,
lovely
the
stroll through nature.
the only troop that you're using it for is the Warden himself. So those two are basically no good. So because the Rage Gem is constant, well, your troops can still get value out of it. So I'm seeing the Warden's Fireball most often used with the Rage Gem.
Okay. I've got to experiment and change those out a little bit. And maybe I was looking at that with the Eternal Tome this week, right? I'm thinking to myself, is there a case where you just don't want to use the tome, or is it just like is it one of those pieces of equipment you just have to have? Right? And I was looking at the stats on it. It doesn't add anything besides just that blockage, whatever. You know, the
Right.
damp, like invincibility. And so I was starting to think about that. Like maybe there is another piece of equipment. Maybe I shouldn't upgrade the tome, all the way up first. Because I go back and forth on that and I see different attacks and new things come out.
I
Something
mean,
to
it's not a bad
consider.
option, but because if you're going to be using Super Bowlers all the way through Town Hall 14, and if you're going to be, you're learning how to do Warden Walks and getting better at it, the Fireball is really good with Warden Walks. So I mean, it's not a bad thing to upgrade.
Yeah.
It's just up to you.
My Warden Walk right now is on point. On point.
Yep, you 3-starred that Town Hall 14 today, earlier this morning.
Really weak Town Hall 14. But it looked like I knew what I was doing.
You did, because you do know what you're doing.
Yeah. And now, after we've talked about it for the last 2 weeks, I can save my Warden. I can, there he is. Where's his thing? Let me just drop the king. I can pull him. I could kind of leapfrog him over.
Mm-hmm.
If he goes the other way and I'm not looking, I can drop the king and he'll pull to the king and then drop the bowlers a little bit farther over, and then he'll come into those. So I'm just getting a much, much better sense of it. So I might put that fireball back on. See, this is why I should just do it even across the board.
Yeah, I just think you have to figure out what attacks you're going to use and then go with those. But
Well,
so
I'm always experimenting.
the one thing that is nice about the upgrade everything strategy is for somebody with OCD, it can be pretty annoying when the blacksmith is like, "You have a piece to upgrade. You have a piece to upgrade. You have a piece to upgrade."
Upgrade.
And then you
Yeah.
click on it and you see all these little green arrows. It's like, "No, stop. I don't want to upgrade you.
Well, it's like
Leave
that.
me alone."
It's like that with the pets too, right? Like, because we've talked about that, and I keep going back to it. How am I going to do this with the pets? What's the strategy? Thinking about which ones work best. And I was using the yak on the RC this week, and I thought it was doing really well. Then I put it back on the king and kind of realized it was doing much better on the king. But what was cool when I was doing it on the RC is it would trail behind, and so it was taking out defenses, or taking out some trash, not all of it, but then it would bust through walls behind the RC. So I thought, well, if you were going to do a second wave, coming around, that little guy would knock through some walls, so that way when your RC is dead, the cleanup troops, are usually 1 or 2 levels in.
Able to pass through. I mean, that's something to consider on some bases, possibly.
So, but here's what I'm going to do with the heroes, or with the upgrades on the pet. I've been be proud of me, I think. I've got the unicorn going to level 7.
Holy cow. Wow, you've been working on that.
Yeah, he's just been down
That's
the
amazing. Well,
entire
yeah,
time. And then if I get,
because I've been putting all my DE in my heroes.
and therein is the next strategy. So
Mhm.
after this upgrade to level 7, I'm going to put the king down until the next CWL.
And just keep them down
And
the whole time.
yep, and I'm going to put the yak down the entire time with him.
Sure.
So then that way his hero and his pet, or the hero and the pet, are both down at the same time. I don't have to miss them twice.
Mhm.
And then I'll probably do that same thing for like, well, I suppose the Royal Champion with Lassie,
Mhm.
because I do think it would be smart for me to wait to go up until I'm very, very close to being done with my pet research. Just because, this is going to change in a week. But I feel like going to that next level, going to Town Hall 15, if I had those pets, it would mean I've got the strongest heroes for what I have at that point. And
Mhm.
I
You have
feel
some
like
meat behind your pets. Yeah, and then that's a valid that's a valid reason. That's exactly what Chewie was saying. Like, it's nice, whenever you get the frost walrus, I forgot what he's called. Whenever you get him, like, he's gonna be down. It will be nice to have, level 10 Lassie, for example, to stick on your warden for your war hits, something that's not a level 1 Lassie that's weak, but you have something that's a lot stronger in a level 10, so that way you don't feel the pain as much. And I understand that argument completely.
yeah, because like as soon as I get there, right, I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna do the pet house upgrade. I'm gonna start that thing, and it's still gonna be how long until that next pet is maxed out.
Yeah.
So I think in the span of time, if I just bite the bullet right now and do as much as I can at before going up to Town Hall 15, take one extra month and get my king rocking up there, keep my stuff on the warden, and then finish out my RC maybe.
Well, and just to finish your pet house, like, the first day to get Frosty, which is the freezy walrus,
Yeah.
it's 13 days and 6 hours to upgrade your pet house, not
Yeah.
counting Gold Pass. And, like, it's gonna be more than that, it might be the same, but it's gonna be at least 13 days or 14 days for each level of the pet house. So that's what, 28
Oh,
days, so that's yeah, that's 56
that's
days
that's
just
rough.
just to just to just to get the pet house to the 4th level, not even counting the time that it's gonna take to upgrade the pets themselves. Like, my pets on my main on Tip Dog 20, not even close. Like, my
Oh,
Lassie is still at level 10, my Owl is at level 12, my Mighty Yak is still at level 10, Unicorn's max, Frosty's max, Diggy's max, Poison Lizard's max, Phoenix is
nice.
max, and Spirit Fox is max. And then Angry Jelly is going to level 6 right now.
That's
But those
awesome.
those smaller ones, I mean, as long as I've been playing, I still haven't been able to max out all of the pets, you know? That's how
Yeah.
long it takes.
Yeah, so if I got him up and that's my thought, right? Is that whenever I flip over to 15, I'm probably not going to touch those for a long time. The ones that I have already.
Probably not, yeah.
And then it's going to be like, "Oh, that's something you got to do." And I'll be sitting there going, "Oh, I really got to do that." Torn, upgrade panic. Here we go.
Yep.
Um, Here's one thing I wanted to talk to you about because I think we've talked about it before and we were talking about it just now a little bit. But I'm really having some problems with my opening. I feel like I'm getting the funneling down. I feel like I'm getting a really good handle on driving into the base. Now I've got to work on other parts of the attack. But I'm running out of time. And when we first started talking, I was watching your videos and thinking, okay, here we are at about the main push of your attack starts a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like on my opening, putting the stuff down, I'm just taking too long. Like waiting for I drop my warden. Okay, make sure he's all right. Okay, you're right. Okay, good. All right, let me go over here and put it on the other one. And so when I do the other one, and then I'm trying to like balance it all, and I feel like, well, I know for certain that I've run out of times more than I care to admit, lately, especially. And I think it has more to do with the opening and getting those initial things out on the board and rolling.
So I have two thoughts on that.
Dear Tip,
number
can
one,
you help me?
number one is we've already discussed this a little bit, but muscle memory will help you out a lot. One of the beautiful things about Legend League is you take the exact same army in every single time, pretty much. I mean, you cook up your army, one that will work with as many different bases as possible, and then you attack with that army. Well, when you use the exact same army every single time, you tend to learn to do the exact same way every time. And the more that you do those things way, then it just becomes automatic. So, for example, if you're using a Yeti to funnel on one side for your flame flinger, well, you put down the Yeti, pop down the flame flinger. On the other side, you're gonna funnel with your warden. So you pop down your warden, put down a Coco Loon, throw down your 5 healers. Like it's just bam, 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 bam. Like it just becomes muscle memory, and you just do it the exact same way every time. And then once they reach a certain level of critical mass, well, then that's when you release your bowlers. And if you're using an E Titan, for example, it's E Titan, Queen, bowler, 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 King. Like you do it the exact same way every time, so you don't even think about it. Like you just kind of run through it and becomes, muscle memory for you to be able to do that.
Well, I'm running the same attacks over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how long I wait. I think, maybe I'm just dropping them over on the one side and going just slow, right? I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I'm dropping the warden over here. On the other side, creating this funnel. But I feel like, so maybe I just need to get those down right away.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. So if you're going into your attack, like it's hard because I went through the same thing. You have to trust the process. So typically your flame flinger will take longer than your warden.
Use the force, Tip Dog.
So typically I will drop my flame flinger first because it takes it longer to work its way through the defenses on that side of the funnel. So my process with super bowlers, for example, is now granted, if we're doing CWL attacks, I'll do my flame flinger trap and Tesla testing a little bit different depending on the base. But if I'm going into a Legend League hit, like I did use bowlers in Legend League back when Town Hall 14 was max, and I just took Yeti. So it was literally drop Yeti, drop Flame Flinger, and then immediately scroll to the other side of the screen where I'm about to drop my Grand Warden, drop my Coco Loon, drop my 5 healers. And then I go back to the other side to check on my Flame Flinger. But I'm not putting down my Flame Flinger, watching to see what it hits for a few seconds, scrolling around a little bit, then going to the other corner, figuring out where I want to drop my Grand Warden, then drop. Do you see what I mean? Like it was just bam, drop it, bam, drop it. And if you do that based on muscle memory and you've looked at the base beforehand or you've scattered it out, in the 30 seconds you have in Legend League, then you got to trust your instincts. You got to trust the process. You got to trust the plan.
So I probably shouldn't make myself a sandwich after I drop my flame flinger then.
Well, so that's the beautiful thing about it is after you drop those, you can wait. So I will wait up to a full minute before dropping my troops. Okay. It all depends on, because typically the warden is finished first with what I want him to get. So once he gets, and you have to learn, okay, these are the buildings he needs to get down. in order for, and a lot of times the pathing is determined by walls, especially with Super Bowlers, because they don't go through they don't go through walls like Root Riders do, or they don't go under walls like Miners do, or over walls like Dragon. So you're really constrained by walls. So you look, okay, I need to get this, and this building with my Grand Warden. As long as I can do that, and then I wall breaker into this section and I jump into this section, the walls will constrain your Super Bowlers through a specific path through the base. So as long as you get the buildings down that you need with your Grand Warden, at that point, you know that your Super Bowlers are going to go where they need to go, where you want them to go. And so you can kind of take a break in between the time of get the Flamefinger down, or, I'm sorry, get the test troops down, get the Flamefinger down. You can make a couple sandwiches if you want in between that time until he gets the last building down, and then bam, throw down your Super Bowlers in the exact same order every single time.
So here, before I forget, this is an observation I made, and I had a thought when you were saying that, because we're talking about walls and pathing.
Mm-hmm.
Overgrowth. Correct me if I'm wrong. I watched my queen walk right through walls with the overgrowth the other day. Right? Like, the walls don't stop troops that are going through an overgrowth.
I don't think so. I could be wrong on that, but I think walls still. I don't know. I'm not sure. I thought walls still stop troops, but granted, I wouldn't know that because I only use the overgrowth spell with Root Riders, and Root Riders do go through walls. So I'm not the right one to ask about that. I don't think that the overgrowth spell nullifies walls. Like, I think walls still stop troops, even if the overgrowth spell's on them.
I'm going to have to look this up, because if that is the case, you could really do some cool attacks if you squeezed. Like, put a bunch of overgrowths in there. I'm going to have to look this up on the Clash Wiki here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that it nullifies walls, but I could be wrong on that. I'm really not sure. But with Super Bowlers, for example, I don't use overgrowth a lot. And honestly, with Super Bowlers, the only reason that I would use overgrowth is for pathing purposes. So the reason that I use overgrowth with my Root Riders is to stop the defenses shooting at my Root Riders. Well, Root Riders, are spread out. There's so many of them. Super Bowlers stay in a cluster. So for me, one single rage, which is 2 spell space, just like the overgrowth spell is way more valuable to me than an overgrowth spell, because with the healers on my Super Bowlers, if I throw down that rage, that keeps my Super Bowlers alive through pretty much any defense, unless it's a big cluster of defenses, or unless it's the monolith, which will take down the Super Bowlers even through the rage. But that rage to me is much more valuable than the overgrowth spell is. So typically I won't bring overgrowth spells with my Super Bowlers unless I'm using it for pathing purposes somehow.
Okay. And it does not disable walls.
That would have been cool if it did, though.
Like, yeah, it would have been kind of
a pretty cool effect.
And this was one of my other questions for you. And in answering this, it answers that one too. The spell has no effect on walls and traps.
Right. Yeah, traps are still activated.
And that was one that came from Maximus that we were talking about this week. If the overgrowth. Now, the freeze spell freezes traps, right?
It will. No, it doesn't freeze traps. It will freeze Teslas.
Oh.
So for instance, if you put a freeze spell down on, a scatter shot and an expo that's shooting your troops, and your troops get close enough and there happens to be a Tesla in between them, when the Tesla pops, it will be frozen as well.
Oh, okay.
But like, if it's an air bomb, like the air bomb will still go off. If there's an air bomb in between those two defenses, like the air bomb will still go off, even if that section is frozen.
Okay. All right, because that would have been a game changer a little bit. Max was running into problems around the town hall with his air attacks and just getting eaten up by traps, just like the air bombs. And so we were I thought I had seen my queen walk through the wall, and we were talking about that and came to the traps. And
yeah, so the reason for that is because a few years ago, there was an attack in Clash of Clans, affectionately known as the popcorn blimp. And basically, you would funnel out with lots and lots of drippy butter. So you would put your heroes down on like a corner to take out some key defenses, like maybe an eagle and an air defense. And then you would put your dragons and dragon riders down, with loons, cocoa loons spread out. You would let them go for a little bit with your warden, and then you would send a blimp over the top of your dragons and dragon riders. You would tome the blimp into the town hall, and then you would, before the blimp got to the town hall, you would put typically 1, 2, or 3 clone spells around the town hall. And then once the blimp reached the town hall, you had a blimp full of balloons. Those balloons would clone all over the core of the base and would just take down everything in the core. Well, in order to stop that, base builders started trapping up the town hall like a lot. So that way that specific attack can't be used, and it's been phased out since. Like I hardly ever see clone blimps anymore, now at least.
That's really, I did not know that.
I was going to say, go ahead.
I haven't really experimented much with the siege machines besides the log roller and the flame flinger, both of which I've been practicing with a lot this week. Kind of going back and forth which one is the one I want to use, but I really like that flame flinger.
So the blimp is really good for getting down the town hall. And if you don't want your troops to have to be drugged through the town hall poison, then you can blimp over the top of them. And you can either have a Yeti blimp, or you can have like an all loon blimp, for example. Or sometimes I'll have in my Town Hall 15, I'll have, I think it's 4 or 5 loons and a dragon rider in there. And if it's raged up, and typically I'll freeze the town hall at the same time, those troops will take the town hall down, and then your main pack, your main army will not have to go through the town hall poison because your blimp got there first and took it out.
I just learned about that this week. I didn't realize that the town hall was doing damage when it was destroyed.
Yeah, the Giga Bomb. I forgot about that. That starts at Town Hall 12.
Okay.
So whenever, and at Town Hall 12, it's only at the max Town Hall. Or I'm sorry, at the max Giga weapon level. So at level 5 or 5 stars above the Town Hall, it will explode upon destruction. And then at Town Hall 13, it will explode and freeze. And it's not a full freeze, it's like a slowdown effect. But when a Town Hall 13, if it's a 5-star level Town Hall 13, it will explode, and then your troops will have this slowing effect because you hit them. That's why typically you'll use your Warden's Tome through the Town Hall, so that way you won't experience the Town Hall blast.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering why my troops were all like slowing down right there in the middle.
And that's also typically while you use, if you can, use the Warden's Tome through the Town Hall and time it so that the moment the Town Hall goes down, you hit the Warden's Tome, and then all of your troops are safe from that huge blast of the Town Hall going down.
Another thing you learn every day. Do you know when they changed that? I mean, was that recent or was...
I mean, they introduced it with Town Hall 12.
Oh, when Town Hall 12 came out.
Yes, yeah. So, but it's not for, how you upgrade your Town Hall, the Giga Weapon. It's not for levels 1 through 4 on Town Hall 12. It's only at Town Hall 5 at Town Hall 12. And then the freeze effect is introduced at Town Hall 13.
Okay.
Which you left the game at Town Hall 12.
Yeah, I think I had just went up.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't remember playing at Town Hall 12 for very long.
And that was after my time. Like when I came back, I went through Town Hall 12, but I left the game originally at Town Hall 11. Like Town Hall 11 had just been introduced whenever I left.
Yeah, the rough time in Clash.
Yeah,
I can remember that.
that was pretty rough. So the other thing that I was going to suggest that maybe you could do is the first thing is muscle memory. The second thing is something that I would actually do before every single attack. I don't do it anymore just because like I've attacks enough to know the steps, but I would literally get a pen and paper. I would write out each step. So I would put Yeti at 6 o'clock, 1, Yeti at 6 o'clock, 2, Flame Flinger behind Yeti at 6 o'clock, 3, Warden at 3 o'clock, 4, Coco Loon, 5, Loon. Like I would write out the steps. And if at any time I panicked, in the beginning stages of my learning how to attack, if I was like, oh crap, what am I supposed to do next? Well, I glanced down at my paper and I would say, okay, just put down the Warden. Next is this, and then I would put
Yeah.
7, wait for barracks at, next to gold mine to go down, then put down super bowlers. Like I would write out each of the steps of my attack. That's a little overkill, but that's something that I did that seemed to help me out and help me learn the game and learn attacking a little bit better.
I'd probably just get really mad at myself when it went wrong, and I'd be like, these fucking flashcards.
Yeah, flashcards. I mean, that's kind of what it is,
Well, it reminds me because I've been really focused on that funneling, focused on the Warden walk. That I haven't quite been. I've been focused more on getting the funnel and creating the funnel. That I'm not. I need to start thinking a couple layers deeper into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like wait until the Warden gets to X place.
That just comes with time. Like that just comes with experience, time, practice, like all of that. You know what to do. Like you have the steps in your head. You just have to be able to do it. Now,
I just got to stop screaming while I'm attacking.
So the mark of a good player is when things don't go according to plan. How can you pivot? So that pivoting ability is what marks an average or a casual Clash of Clans player with a pro player. So a pro player, it's obvious that they had a plan, in the books. That's A is what they were planning on doing, but a Tesla farm pops whenever they put down their Warden and it messes everything up. Well, they quickly switch and they had, 5 Coco Loons that they were planning on using above their Super Bowlers. And so they quickly dropped 3 of those in order to help the Warden take out the Tesla farm and then drop a Rage on top of the Warden at the same time to make sure that the Tesla farm doesn't automatically kill, their Warden or make his ability go off. So pivot ability like that is what really distinguishes the difference between a really good Clash of Clans player and just an average Clash of Clans player. And I mean, I'm still getting there myself because I'll have something like that happen in my attack. And first thing that I think is, oh crap, like what am I supposed to do? And sometimes I'm successful with that, but sometimes I just croak and die. I mean, sometimes it's shameful to watch, but it is what it is. I'm not a pro player. Like that's just the way that it is.
And so are you thinking about it like after you get through the town hall, are you thinking about if they path this way at about 20 seconds left, I should clean up this way? Or are you just kind of going, all right, I'm going to get it through here, it's going to get through the town hall, and these are going to be set, and it should be enough momentum?
I'll typically bring a decent contingent of cleanup troops and I'll watch the pathing on my Super Bowlers. So, for example, I don't want my Super Bowlers to go outside the wall, but as we talked about with that 3 building and the troop, targeting AI, sometimes if there's a barracks outside the wall and there's an archer tower that's just inside the wall and the Super Bowlers destroy the archer tower, well, the moment that I notice that archer tower has locked onto my Super Bowlers, once a defense locks onto one of your troops, it's not going to retarget. Yeah. So it's not going to switch from that Super Bowler that it's attacking to anything else as long as that Super Bowler is alive. Well, as long as I know that Super Bowler is going to live because it's under heal, I have a rage spell down, Well, at that moment, I will throw a wizard on the barracks that's just outside the wall, even though the archer tower can hit it. Because what I don't want is I don't want that archer tower to eventually go down and then the Super Bowlers start targeting the barracks outside the wall. I want them to continue down the path that I want them to go down. And so I'll put down my cleanup troops as the attack is progressing most of the time to make sure that my troops stay inside the base and don't venture outside the base. So I'll do that with my root riders, for example. My root riders will go into the center. Sometimes my king will get this inkling that he wants to wander around the base. And remember, we were talking about the giant gauntlet. Well, the giant gauntlet is not necessarily worthless outside the base, but it's very, very useful if
Wasted.
you can have it wasted. That's perfect word.
Yeah.
It's wasted if it's outside the base. So in order to prevent my king from walking outside the base, I keep an eye on my cluster of troops. And anytime I see a moment like that where, the defenses are locked on the troops that are inside the base, or maybe the arch tower goes down. Well, I this is a cleanup spot. I immediately throw down a wizard to ensure that my troops continue on the path that I want them to go down and they don't wander outside. And that's just the play by ear rule where you can set the funnel, send your troops in, and then you keep your hand on your spells and your cleanup troops. You just kind of go back and forth between them. And once you see that your troops are about to wander outside the base, well, then that's when you throw a cleanup troop down to make sure that they stay inside the base.
But are you seeing this at like, I know at that about 75% of my attack, I should be right here in the base. Like, I mean, are you seeing it like in your planning stages? Like, are you thinking through the pathing through the whole base is what I'm kind of thinking in terms of like individual troops. Like this is going to get, we say like, hey, here's the warden's going to get here. I'm going to introduce them. They're going to go through here. These are going to split and go around the outside this way. I mean, I guess how far into your attack do you feel really confident about?
So I'm pretty confident with about 90%, I would say. 90, I mean, just because I have confidence doesn't mean that it actually works. But I mean, I would say that I'm 90 to 95% confident that I've constructed the pathing for my troops. And as long as, an oh crap moment doesn't happen, like
Okay.
I've planned for them to go all the way through the base onto the other side using this path that I set up for them. And I ensure that they stay on that path with, for instance, in a previous episode, we talked about bringing 2 loons.
Yeah.
Because maybe my Super Bowlers or my Root Riders, and I actually did that. So one of my most recent super attacks, one of my most recent CWL attacks, I sent in my Root Riders, and I noticed before the attack that there was an archer tower on either side outside the wall. And I knew that if I sent in my Root Riders where I was going to send them in at, that they were going to go from this defense to this defense. And then their next pathing was to go to that archer tower outside the wall. Well, the moment that they break through the walls to go to that archer tower on either side, well, that gives the opportunity for my king to follow them. And then there was a ton of trash buildings outside the base. The base builder built it for that specific reason.
Oh.
So in order to prevent that, I put 2 loons down on this archer tower on this side, and then 2 loons on the archer tower down on the other side. That way, that ensured my Root Riders would continue up through the middle, and my king would continue up through the middle. So that way, the giant gauntlet would have the most power, and that he wouldn't wander outside the base. So that's kind of looking at it and planning and making sure that you can keep your troops on the path that you want to. So if it's a defense that you want to get down, 2 loons is perfect. Maybe 3 loons, depending on the defense. If it's just a trash building, a wizard is perfect. Throw the wizard down on that trash building. It ensures that your queen or your king or whatever doesn't wander outside the base. It keeps them where they're needed inside the base, taking down those defenses, just, burning their way through that base.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting I'll just have to pay a little bit closer attention to like the percentages because I feel like I'm getting good with the pathing. I'm able to react a little bit better, and maybe I shouldn't be reacting as much as I am, and really focusing on, like I said, those other parts, like getting it in there.
Maybe you should do thought experiments. So something that I used to
Bullshit.
do
No.
is I would say, okay, I'm gonna get and I would draw them, I would draw it out. So in the old days, we would use Sketch to draw out
Oh
our
yeah.
attacks, and I would put X's, red X's on all the buildings and defenses that I was going to be getting down with my queen walk, and then I would put red X's on the
I
buildings
remember that.
and so you can kind of look at the base and say, okay, these buildings will get down by the warden. These buildings will get down by the flame flinger. This is the pathing. Okay, at this point, I don't know which way the Super Bowlers are going to go. So what can you do to ensure that pathing, to tighten it
Yeah.
up? Like, what can you do? Can you hold the king and not send the king in with the Super Bowlers and instead funnel the king in through another section? So let's say that there's at 12 o'clock, there's this big region of defenses that if you're not careful, your Super Bowlers are going to, after they reach 50% of the base, they're going to path into that section and they're just going to spread out and then
Yeah.
likely die because they're most powerful as a pack. Well, in that attack, for example, I'm going to hold my king. I'm going to funnel him into that section, wall break him in, maybe lead with an ice golem, and then he's just going to tear through that section, which ensures that my Super Bowlers are not going to turn left and spread out. But because the king has already taken all that down, my Super Bowlers will then turn right and go towards the section that I want them to go down.
You know, that kind of makes me realize, as you're saying that I think I've been really oriented towards just never letting your heroes die. Like, you want your king to get through, like when you're saying jump into the compartment and I see other people attack in the clan and they're just throwing a hero away early in the match.
Yep.
That was not how we played back in the day. I mean, I'm sure people did, but the value of those heroes was always like so much that you wanted to get as much out of them throughout the whole attack. And I think I'm
Right.
still kind of oriented that way, where I'm not thinking like, oh yeah, let me just send my king in to take something out. I'm thinking, okay, these will go in, the king will go with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that's the beauty, for example, of the angry jelly. So if you have a
Ooh.
situation like that where there's a compartment you need to take out, and let's say that you have your troop complement and you just don't have extra room for funnel troops, like we were figuring out, oh man, like I'm 8 troop space short. Like, how do I? Well, if you put the angry jelly on the king and he needs to do exactly that, clear out a specific compartment, you don't even need to bring funneling troops because you can break through the wall. And
Yeah.
let's say there's a line of gold mines. He's going to ignore all of those gold mines and just head straight into the compartment at the first defense that he sees. Another thing that people will use is they'll send the king in. Sometimes they'll send the queen in behind it, but you'll send the king in, and then you'll even send in the RC behind the king. So that way you're able to not only get
Shielded.
that home compartment and the king is shielding the RC, well, they can take out that whole compartment, and heroes are so powerful that the king will eventually die. And then the RC can continue on. And then you can protect the RC with invis spells and free spells for as long as you want the RC to go. And also for pathing purposes. So most base builders, most players will keep the defenses towards the inside of their base, and typically trash buildings are on the outside.
Yeah.
So that means, let's say you got that second level, first level is trash buildings, second level is defenses. The king wipes out this whole section, and then the RC pass around, and she's on that second level, and you don't want your Super Bowlers to go into that second level. Well, you can plan on that by sending your RC in behind the king, and then she just kind of pass around, makes a turn, and then bam, all of those defenses are funneled for the Super Bowlers. You don't necessarily think of it as funneling, but it is in that instance. And sure, the RC is eventually going to die, but then your queen can finish off the attack with, the last section that you planned on getting, or, as long as you protect your super bowlers, the super bowlers can get them all.
Are
So
you thinking, so on your attacks then, are you using the king like right off the bat, go in and take this compartment, take this section of the base? Or do you generally see my king usually gets to the town hall?
mhm.
The way I've been deploying them. But I think I need to be way more strategic about it. Like if I'm going to look at a base, now I kind of get it with the queen and the warden, but let's say the king, for example, how much of the base, like, or what defenses are you looking for to send him into something?
So I'm not looking for specific defenses. I'm
Okay.
only looking for pathing. So if there's a row of, and this never happened, but let's say there's a row of 6 archer towers on this side, and let's say that they're just out of the range of super bowlers. Super bowlers are not going to target them for whatever reason, but I can send in my RC on that row of archer towers. Well, then I plan for that, so that way I can funnel my super bowlers with my RC. Or if it's a big section, like a big compartment, well, then I plan on that and I send my king in to take out that entire compartment. And that just depends on the base. Like sometimes I'll send my king in with my super bowlers. Sometimes, I know that they're not going to path the way that I want them to if this section stays up. So I'll save my king, or I'll even send him in early. Like it kind of depends. So I see more
That's where
solo
I'm really,
king attacking at lower town hall. So you'll see it with the pros at the higher town hall levels, but I see it a lot like town hall 14 and below. You'll see a lot of Sui King entries or Sui hero entries where you're literally sending your heroes in to die, but they're taking out this entire section, which is completely worth it. And then you just follow that up with dragons or with a Lalo with whatever troop complement that you're
yeah.
using.
That's okay. I'm thinking more about those funnels, thinking about those heroes and how they're being used, because I do think like some of my entries with those heroes aren't, I get the warden in there and maybe one or two pieces, but thinking about like the king specifically and where he's gonna go, because that giant gauntlet. I mean, like that giant gauntlet, he's usually tearing out in front of everything pretty fast. Which is kind of, that's where, like when we were talking earlier, I could see that as being a drawback in some ways. So like I could see it if there was a trade-off with the giant gauntlet where I was getting the same DPS and the same attack speed or whatever it is, but not the active ability. Like if it was that, but it was and maybe the earthquake boots are like that, or I could see something being more effective for me with the rage, just with the way I play the king most of the time. With the rage vial, I mean.
Right. What would you pair with it then if you didn't use the giant gauntlet?
Well, I was using the vamp stash, and that's where I've been looking at, I'm looking at these upgrades and going, okay, damage per second, passive and all that. And I wanted, and I look at the vamp stash every time I'm about to upgrade, because I think about it and I'm like, I like it when he holds back a little bit, because sometimes just getting way too far out there, he gets ahead of my attack, and I'm kind of forced to like, the infernos are on him or something is hitting him and he's getting way down there. And so I just, at that certain point, he just, okay, go nuts. A lot of times I can manage to tome him before he gets out of range. But then again, sometimes I'm forced because of him to tome early. And so I'm trying to protect him further into the battle, you know, I'm going, oh, my king's almost low, and my queen's fine, or whatever, but my king's down there. I better tome right now before I lose my king.
So the really cool thing about the Giant Gauntlet is it has its own mini tome ability. So whenever you hit the Giant Gauntlet at max, it reduces damage, incoming damage by 60% on him.
Okay.
So which is basically 60% of the Warden's Eternal Tome. So and at max it lasts 17 seconds. So for 17 seconds, the king has 60% of an Eternal
The
Tome.
arrows are just falling off of him as he's walking by.
And you'll notice a huge difference. So whenever you hit the king ability with the Giant Gauntlet on him, like he can have, like you said, multiple archer towers, cannons, like they're all hitting him, and his health is just barely slowly going down. So I wouldn't necessarily think of him as, oh man, I have to save the king, so therefore I need to hit the Eternal Tome. More or less, think of the king as the Eternal Tome. He has his own internal tome ability that comes from the Giant Gauntlet. So the king isn't necessarily most important from my perspective as far as making sure that he's within the Eternal Tome ability. Your troops and your queen are what's most important to make sure that they aren't getting hit, because they're way more squishy than the king is.
Yeah.
And so it's almost wasted if the king's out ahead drawing the fire power and your troops are kind of, coming in behind. Well, if he's under, if his health is at half health, and he's getting hit by a lot of defenses, hit that king ability and bam, 60% of the Eternal Tome is on him right at that moment. That gives your troops time to work. They step up a little bit more. Maybe the town hall's right there. And then that way, rather than toming early, now you can protect your troops from the town hall blast. When before you might not have been able to if you were focused on the king.
Well, and I think what this conversation is kind of showing me is a mindset. You know, we all kind of go through life or whatever, and we have the way we've done things, and and we have the automatic assumptions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like with this, it's like, oh, protect the heroes. And just thinking about, oh yeah, how much of that mindset and how many of my attacks am I really looking at and just going, oh, it's the king, I want to get him in farther, instead of placing him and it's like, what is beneficial for both in that moment, right? It's like, okay, my troops are here, they're doing all right, but the king's almost doing it, but really thinking about just one set of troops, like not thinking about the king as like so indispensable, and like trusting his tome, right? And not necessarily relying on the Warden tome. Like I'm thinking about it like, after this, I'm going to go attack, and I'm just going to try for the next, if it works, all right, I guess, for a few times to just, if the king is getting low, don't do it unless it is, my troops are in the right spot. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yes, no, 100%. So legacy thinking on the king was you would catch him in the tome. And typically what players would do before the Giant Gauntlet was introduced is the heroes have always had these abilities, and the king's natural ability was the Barbarian Puppet and the Rage Vial. So before hero equipment was introduced, whenever you pop the king's ability, all these barbarians would pop out, raged barbarians. And so the common thinking was, if the Warden is with the king, you wait to hit the Eternal Tome, you hit the king ability, and then you immediately tome, because all of those raged barbarians are going to do so much damage underneath the Warden's tome.
Yeah.
So but that's definitely the older way of thinking.
That's the root of it.
That's the way that's the way it used to be done.
Eureka. And I hadn't thought about it. Like, I had just been running that part on autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes some of our conversations before make more and more sense too. Like, okay, I'm trying to balance two things at the same time, and now I can kind of think about it like, okay, yeah, the king is doing one thing, Warden and Super Bowler's doing the other thing, or whatnot.
Well, if you're used to that, would you want to run the barbarian puppet rather than the giant gauntlet?
No, I was using the Vamp Stash before,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been running the Gauntlet. I got that up to 12, and the Rage Vial up to 12, and they're my highest. But it was like my king getting too far out there, and kind of stretching my warden, and when I have
Mm-hmm.
to take it off. But in talking to you, it's like, yeah, maybe that my problem is stretching the warden to get him, and think about him a little bit more separate,
Yep.
just be
Yep.
mindful of what my goals are with which troops. And
Yes, exactly. That's it.
because like, yeah, when it changes, I've done thousands of attacks with the old king,
Mm-hmm.
and he just kind of,
Muscle memory, man.
yeah, muscle memory. Um, I still reach for my curly phone cord.
You're yeah, but with the giant gauntlet, you have to remember that the king has his own tome now.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not 100% tome, but it is 60% of the warden's tome. And so use it. Like
Yeah.
use that, that's a super powerful ability. Now, I like having and this you'll get this whenever you're at Town Hall 15. I like putting the Phoenix on my king for exactly this reason because at Town Hall 14, if you have the giant or any town hall below Town Hall 15, if you have the giant gauntlet on and you don't hit the giant gauntlet ability by say half health, I don't know the exact numbers as far as how much he's up or whether he's healed up or not. I don't think he's healed up at all. I don't know if he has any life
No,
regen.
I think he does. I'll look it up I'll look at it right now.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I don't see any. I don't think he has any life regen, which means you need to hit that ability when he's at about half health or so. Because if you wait until he's all the
Oh
way
yeah.
down to zero, now I know that the Rage Vial has I think 2,500 HP increase whenever you hit the ability, and so I'm sorry, it's 1890 health recovery, Rage Vial level 18. So he will have his health go up if you have the Rage Vial on him, but the Giant Gauntlet doesn't have any health recovery. So you want to hit his ability when he's at about half health because you want to make sure that he
Ooh.
gets full use of that war 60% of the ward's tome with the giant gauntlet. And the
Yeah.
reason that I'll put the Phoenix on him is because it doesn't matter at that point. You can wait until he goes all the way to the bottom and then hit the giant gauntlet ability because even if he dies, he's immediately raised for an additional 7 or 8 seconds with the Phoenix. He comes back to life and he still has the giant gauntlet ability on him, even though he's died already. That's
There's
kind
some
of a
more legacy thinking right there.
yeah.
I mean, looking at the the health recovery on the barbarian and the rage was more. And
Yes.
thinking about like the gauntlet and not getting that, it kind of, there's a lot of moving parts. So like I'm kind of realizing more and more which effects between them are part mindset and then part, new boosts or drawbacks, even like with
Yeah, and it's the same with the queen. So a lot of players are playing with the frozen arrow. The frozen arrow doesn't have any HP recovery on the queen,
yeah, that's
none
the
at
rough
all.
part.
So I recommended in the beginning, like if you're not going to be using the healer puppet and you want the extra damage that the frozen arrow offers, then put the archer puppet on because you at least get 380 or 400 health recovery whenever you pop that ability. So that way she can get through that rough patch and not immediately die if she gets hit by a giant bomb. So it's the same type of thing with all the heroes. Like Supercell's done a really good job of balancing power with health recovery. So if you're going to use a piece of equipment that gives you more power, you're going to get less health recovery on the opposite end. And then something like the healer puppet, for example, has a ton of health recovery, but just doesn't offer as much power as, say, the archer puppet or the frozen arrow do. Like it just doesn't, it's the weakest piece of equipment in terms of power, but it's the best as far as longevity goes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
that's pretty
prefer
cool.
longevity. So it's
Yeah.
the same thing with the RC. So the haste vial is amazing. Haste vial is amazing. The Seeking Shield is amazing too, right? But
I wouldn't
neither of
know.
those,
I
neither of
lost mine
those,
weeks
or
ago.
you threw it in the trash. But neither of those have health recovery, and so I like flexibility and the ability for me to make mistakes because I'm not a great
Yeah.
Clash of Clans player.
Oh,
And
you
so
are too.
if I'm an okay Clash of Clans player, if I get my RC into a tight compartment and I have the haste vial, well, there's no HP recovery. She's just gonna die. When if I have the Hog Rider puppet, the Hog Pocket on her, well then that whenever that ability is pressed, she heals up
Surprise.
almost back to full health. So I kind of get a second chance at my attack by using these pieces that grant more health recovery. And I'm still able to get, 3 stars a high percentage of the time. Because when I make mistakes, my mistakes are covered up by the fact that I have these, you know, pieces of equipment on my heroes that allow me to make those mistakes and are more forgiving than the other pieces that require a higher level of skill.
Have you tried the Hog Pocket with the shield?
I have not. So I've been running the Hog Pocket with the Royal Gem for the past, I don't know, 2 months now, I would say.
With the
I
Royal
kept
Gem?
I kept the shield on, I think until my Hog Pocket was level 12. So
That's
I
where
up
mine's in. Yeah.
I, and then once my Hog Pocket reached level 12, because my Seeking Shield was automatically at level 15 back when they introduced a hero
Oh,
equipment. And so I just used the Seeking Shield, upgraded my Hog Pocket up to level 12, and then switched them once the Hog Pocket reached level 12.
okay. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try working with trying these different combos, and I think it makes a good case for me to keep them pretty even.
Yeah, until you figure out what you want, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah. So, well, I know we're running short on time, but this has actually opened a lot more avenues for questions. I
I
kind of
didn't
came.
realize I didn't realize how much time had passed. That's
No, I
crazy.
know we
You
kind
were
of got
talking, I was
into it,
like,
and
"Oh
I'm just
crap!" Like
like,
it's yeah.
well, because I was really thinking about the opening this week, and then really getting into that hey, this is the king, right? And just the hero equipment differences like that. I just have to experiment, and so used to that rote, that kind of over and over and over again, that I forget to change up certain aspects when I'm trying different armies. And so maybe when I'm doing that, I'm gonna have to play with the hero equipment more.
You know something that you might want to try, and this is the hardest thing in the world to do because you're going to get so many different opinions. You're going to have people who say to do it this way. You're going to have because I'm not always right. Like I have an
What?
opinion on I have an opinion on stuff,
You
but
son of
I've
a
been
bitch.
especially doing these YouTube videos.
You heard it here first, people.
No, hopefully that's not the first time that I
No.
hopefully that's not the last time that I ever say
No,
that
I'm
as
just
well.
I
But but like I found out doing YouTube videos that I have wrong ways of thinking about things. And whenever I have a different way of thinking about things, the beautiful thing about YouTube is people will not hesitate to challenge you on your belief, whatever that may be, or opinion. Now, sometimes they're wrong, and
yeah.
I will not hesitate to say, actually, think about this, this, and this. So, and I won't just come out and be like, you are wrong, but I'll be like, yeah, sorry, that's I don't think that's correct. I had one guy
So suck
posted on a
it.
video, like he wrote like this whole diatribe on why I was incorrect on this specific video, and at the end, I was like. I appreciate you writing this out, but we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this because I don't agree with what you said. But I mean, that being said, like I'm not 100% correct. So figuring out what's best for you, but I'm sorry, my point was this is going to be hard because you're going to get so many different opinions. But what I would do is FC within the clan and then ask for feedback.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about that. FC.
And you're going to get, Chewy may say something. And the beautiful thing about it is everybody in L is great. Like you can say, F off, Chewie. I don't think that what you said is right. And he's not going to care. He's a great guy,
Oh
right?
yeah, no, yeah.
So, and then you'll get Rage in there to say something, and then GCBC will give you some feedback. Gwen may throw in some feedback, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it may not be exactly what you want. Like it may not be exactly right, but it's different perspectives, different ways of looking at attacks, and just do some FCs and see what other people have to say about it, and then take that into consideration.
I'll have to do that because I really do forget about the FCs. I just forget about them, that I can attack my own base. So muscle memory right there.
Yep.
I can actually give the clan code this week since I have this pulled up, I believe.
Wait, it's not hashtag SUCKIT?
It used to be that.
Supercell made us change it.
That's the alt. It is 909 VUGYV. Or is it 909? I think it might be 909 VUGYV. One of those two. House of L.
Type them both in, see if it works.
Yeah, I would think they'd put the little thing over it. I think it might be an O. So, shout outs this week.
Shout out everybody. So, I'm very appreciative of everybody in the clan because we have such a range of town halls that it's been difficult to get everybody into the CWL. And so Boots Electric, for example, has Cowboy Curtis, which is his Town Hall 10. And I would really love to have, shout out to Boots. Like I would really love to have Cowboy Curtis, but there's realistically going up against, all Town Hall 14s, 15s, and 16s. There's just nothing that he can hit. So we've tried and he's been very understanding. And I appreciate that a lot. Like I'm trying to rotate people in and hopefully next month we can split up to where we can have lower town halls in one clan, maybe Chewie's clan, for example, Angry Wookiees, and then have the higher town halls in House of L. That way we don't have to do this, trying to rotate people in who really aren't going to have any basis to attack because it's so difficult since they're going up against higher town halls.
Yeah.
So just
and it's kind of changed up every day too.
Yeah, I mean, we've had like almost all Town Hall 16 some days. And then like today, I think it's going to be one of the lowest. We have, like 5 Town Hall 13s or something like that. Or those 2. We have 2 Town Hall 13s at the very bottom. So anyway.
Well, shout out to you for all the work in the CWL. It's actually cool to see it unfold. Kind of how you're doing it and everything. Like, oh, I get it now. How this is supposed to work. And like, oh, you do this to get everybody stars.
Yeah. And I'm open to feedback. Like, so if anybody thinks that I should be doing it differently, please say, hey, have you thought about this tip? And I will more than gladly take feedback, like 100%.
Yeah, it's cool to see it all moving in motion. So shout out to House of L. There's always tons of shout outs. It's been really busy couple weeks. And so it's about to slow down. And I'm really excited to dig into getting more and more of the old episodes out and working on some other content and stuff. So
it's exciting.
That's all the shot. There goes Clark. Yeah. So we'll be back
next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with a barking dog in the background named Clark. So keep it clashy, everybody. Oh, get a hold of us, clashcleanspodcast@gmail.com, clashcleanspodcast.com, the website. Keep it clashy, everybody.
Suck it, nerds.
Suck it.
Skilly beep 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 skilly beep.